Welcome to the NFN Radio News Podcast, brought to you by Not Fake News.biz. I'm Bob Gaddy, founder and editor of Not Fake News. March is Women's History Month, a month when the achievements and contributions of women are recognized and honored. It would be a great time to do something, too, about the violence that many women face in their own personal relationships, at home, or even when a date goes bad. The same can be said for males, too, when a personal relationship with a partner evolves into violence. That's why Congress is working on the Violence Against Women Act and why it needs to be signed into law. But the Republicans are up to their old tricks, and it doesn't look like they have any plans to respond in any way. In this commentary from NotFakeNews.biz, we take a look at all of this. So here's Protect Gun Rights, Bash Gays, GOP Priorities. Take a listen from NotFakeNews.biz. Republicans are showing no inclination to change their priorities. Gun rights and gay bashing are still right there at the top of their lists. That was evident last week when obsession with gun rights and intolerance for members of the LGBTQ community appeared to be enough for 172 Republicans to vote against the Violence Against Women Act when it was passed by the House of Representatives last Wednesday. The National Rifle Association opposed a provision closing the so-called boyfriend loophole. That's all many Republicans needed to hear. While existing federal law forbids people convicted of domestic violence against a current or former spouse to buy or own a firearm, the new legislation would extend the prohibition to those convicted of abusing, assaulting, or stalking a dating partner, or to those under a court restraining order. That was too much for the NRA, the nation's most powerful gun lobby, and for the GOP members of Congress who do its bidding, saying it infringes on gun rights, which, after all, is far more important than protecting women and other domestic partners from getting shot, said Jason Oymet, executive director of the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. The NRA did not oppose the Violence Against Women Act for its first 25 years, and today we only oppose the gun control provisions contained within, declared Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the nutcase Republican from Georgia. You know, the QAnon lady. If you want to protect women, make sure women are gun owners and know how to defend themselves. That's the greatest defense for women. The original law, originally enacted in 1994, having been introduced by then Senator Joe Biden, lapsed in 2018. But alarming reports about a rise in domestic violence during pandemic lockdowns persuaded many lawmakers that it needed to be reinstated. The House-approved bill expands some of the original law's protections and creates some new ones. It's gender neutral because intimate partner violence is not limited to heterosexual relationships. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner violence and or stalking. As Los Angeles Times columnist Robert Abkarian explained, the act improves services for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. It provides new protections for young victims of violence, including adding funds to improve screening for intimate partner violence. It ensures that violence survivors can remain housed in the event of a breakup with a spouse, and creates protections for Native American women through tribal registries for sex offenders and those who have been ordered to stay away from victims. And yet about half of all intimate partner homicides are committed by current or former dating partners, she wrote. Closing this loophole doesn't just make sense. It's imperative. States that prevent abusive dating partners from owning guns have 16% fewer intimate partner gun homicides, according to the American Journal of Epidemiology. The bill opens the door of the armor of the federal government and its protection of women who continue to lose their life and men, said Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Texas Democrat, and one of its principal authors. Yes, it is a culturally sensitive initiative that protects immigrant women. It protects Native Americans. It protects poor women. Now, the Violence Against Women Act also includes a provision that would create the first grant program dedicated to supporting LGBTQ survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. That amendment was sponsored by Representative Ayanna Presley, the Democrat from Massachusetts, and Representative Marie Newman, Democrat from Illinois. The Violence Against Women Act is about saving lives and ensuring justice for survivors who have suffered in silence for too long, Presley told NBC News, but until now, Congress's efforts have overlooked the hurt and harm felt by LGBTQ plus survivors, especially trans women of color. I'm proud that this year's Violence Against Women Act included my provision to create grants and services dedicated to serving members of the LGBTQ plus community. I am grateful to Representative Newman for her partnership on this priority and look forward to seeing this critical legislation signed into law. Newman said violence against trans Americans, particularly black and brown transgender women, has become a national epidemic. On top of this harsh reality is the alarming rate at which LGBTQ plus survivors cannot access services solely because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, she said. This new grant program is specifically designed to combat domestic violence against LGBTQ plus individuals through prevention, education, outreach, training to victim service organizations, and other entities. We cannot allow ourselves to ignore this gross injustice any longer. We must do more to protect all women, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer women. Add those provisions to the boyfriend loophole protections opposed by the NRA, and it was just a bridge too far for many Republicans, as Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican from New York, complained. And Representative Steve Chabot, Republican from Ohio, demonstrated still more Republican narrow-mindedness, complaining that transgender people, whom he referred to as biological males, would be housed in shelters and prisons with females. It seems to me that many on the left decided that we could use this critical legislation that's intended to protect women and girls from violence as a vehicle to promote their far-left political agenda, Chabot said. Of course, it was so critical that he voted against it. Well, perhaps, Mr. Congressman, Democrats are simply recognizing the realities that exist today and are trying to act responsibly in providing protections for those who truly need them. It's not all that complicated. Now the bill goes to the Senate, where President Biden hopes it will be approved. Growing evidence shows that COVID-19 has only exacerbated the threat of intimate partner violence, creating a pandemic within a pandemic for countless women at risk for abuse, he said. This should not be a Democratic or Republican issue. It's about standing up against the abuse of power and preventing violence, he said. But that old bugaboo, the filibuster, is likely to doom its passage unless changes in those procedures are made so it can be passed with a simple majority vote. There is no reason to expect GOP attitudes in the Senate will be any more enlightened than those in the House. I'll be back with some closing comments right after this message. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. It'd be great if you'd follow NFN Radio News so you don't miss an episode, and check out Not Fake News.biz as well. There's new material just about every day, and we've got some really good writers with perspectives on a whole range of topics. You can sign up as a member at notfakenews.biz. And of course, it's all free. Also, let your friends know about this podcast and about notfakenews.biz. Our goal is to be informative and entertaining as we comment on the latest developments in the news, with just a little lean to the left. Plus, check out our companion podcast, Tempo in the Times, created with my old buddy Scott Raminger to explore the intersection of music, art, and popular culture with news and politics. Our first guest was Susan Anders, a talented Nashville musician who shared information about her musical adventures, including her new album, 13 Women. The album looks to the past with original songs about 13 women, some well-known, some not, who've made extraordinary contributions to history in our modern world. March is Women's History Month, so this was a perfect way to recognize that and to kick off our new show. So take a listen to that episode with Susan. You can find it on just about any podcast streaming service, including Spreaker, or by visiting Tempo in the Times. Now, on Friday, March 19th, we stream a new episode with former New Jersey Congressman and Governor James J. Florio, who talks with Scott and me about the state of politics and government today in the post-Trump era, and what he thinks Joe Biden needs to do to make things happen. It's a fascinating conversation with a guy who's been all around the block in politics, serving in the state legislature in New Jersey, then serving in the House of Representatives for several terms, and then serving as governor of New Jersey. Meanwhile, thanks for listening. This is Bob Gaddy signing off for NFN Radio News and Not Fake News.biz.